Today we look at the 352nd German Infantry Division that was responsible for the defense of Omaha Beach. Now, depending on who you ask, the division was either elite or trash. Well, as so often, a lot of the details might reveal a bit more information. We look at the division's weapons layout, its experience, and German combat effectiveness rating the division received. A big shout out in the beginning to Niels Henkemans, who helped me a lot on this video. You can follow him on Twitter. First, let's look at the basic history of the 352nd Infantry Division. It was created in November 1943 in Saint-Cloud, France, in the Normandy region, where it remained until it was destroyed in July 1944. The division itself was created in November from the remnants of the 321st Infantry Division, which was shattered on the Eastern Front. This will be more relevant if we look at the unit's experience later. Next, let us look at the actual strength. In terms of heavy weapons, on 1st May 1944, the division had reached the authorized strengths in terms of heavy weapons, except the mortars, of which it was 6 short. So here's the full layout. It had 96 81mm mortars, 18 75mm Light Infantry Support Guns, das leichte Infanteriegeschütz 18, 6 heavy infantry support guns with 150mm, one 50mm PaK 38, which was used for training, 10 75mm PaK 40s towed. If you want to know more, here's the detailed video about this weapon. For self-propelled anti-tank purposes, there were 14 Marder 3 Ausführung M. They were also equipped with the 75mm PaK 40. For further information on the Marder 3, check out this video. Yet there's even a bit more. There were also 10 Sturk 3 Ausführung G, also with a 75mm gun. They basically packed the same firepower as the Marder, but offered a lot more protection with strong frontal armor, topside armor, and of course a smaller silhouette. In terms of indirect fire artillery, there were 37 105mm leichte Feldhaubitzen 18. It had 3 light artillery battalions. Each battalion had 12 guns, but one gun was used for the training in the field replacement battalion. For heavy artillery, there were 12 150mm schwere Feldhaubitzen 18. In terms of artillery, this was the standard layout for a regular German infantry division from 1939 to summer 1944, with the exception for the training gun. For further information on German artillery in the Second World War, see this video. And for anti-aircraft purposes, 9 Sonderkraftfahrzeug 7/2 equipped with the 37mm Flak were used. In terms of motorization, none of the artillery units were motorized according to Zetterling. Next are the machine guns. The 352nd Infantry Division was equipped with 671 light machine guns and 102 heavy machine guns. Now, very important here, Germany in the Second World War did not distinguish the heavy and light machine guns in terms of caliber, but on its tactical role, which was determined by the mount. So both the heavy and light machine gun were often the same gun. For instance, the MG34 on a tripod for the heavy machine gun, or on a bipod for the light machine gun. Same for the MG42. Note, they were technically 2 tripods, a complex one that was used for ground combat and cost more than the gun itself, and a simple one for anti-aircraft purposes. The latter was also considered a light machine gun. Now, of these 775 machine guns, at least 584 were MG42 and 41 were MG34s. So in overall, most of the machine guns were German-made ones, and most of them were up to date with the MG42. Interestingly enough, I found in the German archives a document about training from December 1943 by the commander of the division, where he particularly stated that the troops trained on machine guns should be trained only on the MG42. In terms of small arms, there were 9,876 K98K. Then there were 145 K98K with telescopic sight, so the sniper or marksman variant. Additionally, 441 G1 self-loading rifles, so semi-automatic rifles. Then there were 502 rifle grenade launchers, so the Gewehr-Granatgerät. For more information on German rifle grenades, see this video. Then 824 submachine guns like the MP40, 3,441 pistols, and finally 9 Granatbüchsen 39, which was an anti-tank rifle that was modified to be used with rifle grenades, particularly the heavy anti-tank grenade. In terms of manpower, Settling notes that it had 12,734 men in March 1944, which was 494 men above authorized strengths. In terms of manpower, it was pretty much on par with the authorized strength of the standard division layout 1944, which had 12,772 men. There are various differences. For instance, while the Infantry Division 44 layout had 120mm mortars, the 352nd did not, although it had more artillery barrels, namely 3 more heavy and 3 more light howitzers. Of course, the majority of the divisions in the Normandy area were static divisions, called bodenständige Divisionen in German. In early June 1944, 24 static divisions and 22 regular infantry divisions were under the command of the Commander West. The static divisions, as the name implies, had very little mobility, weak supply organization, and often were equipped with captured weapons and/or older equipment. The first ones were raised in 1942. They had fewer infantry units than regular infantry divisions. Over the years, the static divisions were reorganized. For instance, they had to give away an infantry battalion for deployment on the Eastern Front. These were replaced with Osttruppen battalions. Note that static divisions were not standardized. Those that were raised together had the same organization, yet they did not have necessarily the same equipment. For instance, static divisions created in May 1943 by mid-1944 were equipped with either French, Soviet or German artillery, with one case, the 266th Static Division having both Soviet and French artillery. These divisions used a lot of captured equipment. In overall, the static divisions had worse equipment, and in some cases the phrase "it belongs into a museum" might have been the appropriate response. Let's look at combat effectiveness next. First, we look at how experienced the personnel was. This is a bit of a patchwork on limited sources. Then we look at the German internal combat rating. One book noted that most men of the 352nd had seen combat before. At first, this seems to be incorrect, yet there are also indications this might be correct. So let us look at the various data points. According to a post-war report by former Chief of Staff of that division, the report notes that the majority of the replacements consist of young people. Additionally, 50% of the officers were inexperienced and 30% of non-commissioned officers' posts were vacant as of 1st March 1944. Zetterling notes, most of the recruits were born in the years 1925 and 1926, which according to the report suffered physical limitations due to shortage of food at the time in Germany. Considerable problems were experienced in training them. Shortages of ammunition meant that before March, the soldiers were only given 3 opportunities to fire their weapons and had thrown only 2 hand grenades. Training of drivers lagged behind due to shortages of fuel. Starting in March, training proceeded better, but it was hampered by the time spent on the construction of the Atlantic Wall. On average, a soldier spent 9 hours on such work each day, while training only accounted for 3 hours. The lack of capabilities in terms of officers seems to be confirmed by various reports on training by the division commander. One from 31st December 1943 noted that the training of the squad should be done by the platoon leaders, adding that it is required that the company commander supervises this training. Yet due to the low capabilities of the platoon leaders, that the company commander initially will have to conduct the training himself, although this was more than 5 months prior to the invasion. The last part of the report states that the commander punished a cook with 3 days of arrest since he smoked in the kitchen, adding that the kitchen NCO did nothing, and if this happens again, he will arrest him as well. Other documents in the German archives although clearly underline that the division had at least a certain number of officers that had experience. One file contains entries with experience reports from the Eastern Front. Yet on closer inspection, none of these reports deal with direct combat experiences. But logistics, it includes reports by the quartermaster, medical services, motorization, supply, military police, veterinary services, and postal service. Now the most convincing point that the 352nd Infantry Division had many experienced men is that Allied intelligence in late June did an investigation on captured German paybooks and noted that just under 50% had seen action in Italy or the Eastern Front before. Thank you to Niels Henkemans for this information. This brings us to the next point, namely the German ratings of its combat effectiveness. According to Niels Henkemans, the combat effectiveness of the 352nd Infantry Division was the ranking 2. which means capable of offensive operations after rest. This seems to be in line with the statement by the German military historian Peter Lieb that noted the 352nd was of good quality compared to other divisions. For context, the highest rating was fully capable of all operations, whereas the lowest 5, meaning capable of limited defensive operations. Niels added that the ranking 2 was the highest for infantry divisions in the West in 1944, whereas most had the rating 3, which meant capable of limited offensive operations. Note that in summer 1941, just before the outbreak of Operation Barbarossa, the Germans considered 136 out of 209 divisions with the rating 1. So while by 1944 standards this was a good division, by pre-Barbarossa standards it would have been below average. Before we look at the summary, it is important to note that not the whole 352nd Infantry Division was stationed at Omaha Beach on D-Day, but one of the 3 infantry regiments, although a battalion of another unit and likely several companies of the 352nd were also there. To summarize, the 352nd German Infantry Division was neither elite nor trash. It was a good quality division that got the second highest combat effectiveness rating in May 1944, and thus was one of the best infantry divisions on the German Western Front at this time. Big thank you to Niels Henkemans for helping out with information, thank you to Andrew for reviewing the script, thank you for watching, and see you next time.